Playbook for Performance, the official podcast of Shauna Corden, the Joan of Arc for corporate healing and performance. Join the quest to make work fun again by preparing leadership for engaging workplaces. And now, your host.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Playbook for Performance podcast. I'm your host, Shauna Corden. My mission is to make work fun again by building better leaders. And this month we're talking about the parallels between a coaching culture, which I wrote a very popular book on, and preventing polarization. So over the last 6 to 9 months, I've been working on a book that went from the idea of a new dialogue that would overcome this polarization. And then it was about this idea of reuniting. But as the research continues to develop, we're learning more about this. And my working theory now is that it's all about preventing polarization versus reuniting. So let's explore. Today I want to talk about reuniting and the willingness for people to invest. So let's get into it. So this whole idea that people have about reuniting is this challenge they have with investing their time, their effort, maybe their money in something that's not a sure thing, because others are not always predictable. And we might put our heart on our sleeve and say, I was wrong. I chose my feelings about this issue or concern over my feelings for you. And we might be met with, so, and that's very difficult for people. And so we really want to make sure that we want to feel safe, right? But sharing those feelings, being vulnerable, is what builds trust. And if we can overcome that hurdle by revealing our feelings and building that trust, the likelihood of us being able to reunite with those we're separated from is probably pretty good. Pretty good. Now, when I asked people, well, what makes it worth it? They said they wouldn't do it for a colleague. They wouldn't do it for more of an acquaintance type friend. It would have to be a long-standing relationship that has proven its value over the years, or a first-degree family member. They're probably not going to do this for Cousin Joe, but they will do it for Sister Mary, Mother Martha, Father John, so on and so on. And they really need the encouragement and support of others around them to make it work. So just like when somebody goes through recovery, they have a mentor. They've got daily meetings that are an option for them. And they need something like this to ensure that it's worth it. And for the rest of the family, it's so valuable because, you know, holding it to, sorry for those of you outside the U.S., but, you know, only meeting at Thanksgiving and Christmas and keeping to like the bare essentials in conversation is not how we want to spend our holidays. We want to have warm connection. We want it to be rewarding. We want it to be amusing. My brother texted me the other day and he said, oh, I had this dream about these apples you used to make when we were kids, where I would core the apples out and fill them with all kinds of stuff that weren't good for us and then plug the ends with marshmallows. I probably learned it in campfire. But that kind of relationship where it's so rewarding and you have shared history, those are the things that people say make it worth it. But you have to do the work. And so we really need people to step up to do that work. And I find that the formula that's working best for people, and I'm continuing to refine it, is for people to say, hey, I was wrong. Right? Which we know is one of the 4 most difficult things to do. Wayne Dyer talked about this in a couple of his talks. Another one being to defend the absent party when people are gossiping or piling on. But to say I was wrong And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're backing off the issue that was so important to you. You might still feel very connected to that issue. All you're saying is that my relationship with you is more valuable. I can set this aside. Doesn't mean I'm changing my mind. Doesn't mean I'm capitulating. Doesn't mean that I'm saying that you are right. I'm just saying that we're going to agree to disagree on this issue. And you are of value to me, and I want you in my life. And it takes a very big person to say that. And according to the research from Gay Hendricks, this idea that I'm going to take 100% responsibility for the relationship. Well, a lot of people, when they hear that, they back off. They say, well, why would I take 100% of the relationship or the responsibility? Shouldn't they take half of it? Shouldn't we meet 50-50? Well, if that's the case, then no one will ever reunite. It really takes an extra effort. So it's sort of like being a couch potato for a very long time. You're not going to be in shape in 1 week. And you have to make that commitment that being healthy is the thing that's very important to you. And that's why we need the support and accountability by others. So whether it's the other members of the family, whether it's your friends that you know that this relationship is near and dear to you and that you really want to make up with mom, whatever it might be, those are the things that are really important in this reuniting process. However, the most important thing is preventing it before it happens. So we all know that adage that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we are on the verge in some of these relationships of these close family members, we need to recognize that and just put the brakes on and not get to the point where we choose the issue over the family member or the close friend, whomever it might be. And I know a lot of you out there, you have chosen family members versus biological family members. And those are the ones that are important to you. Again, apply these same principles. It doesn't matter whether it's blood or not. Family is family. So let's talk a little bit more about this. So I mentioned earlier that a coaching culture, one that's driven by ask versus tell, has a lot of shared principles with this reunite and preventing polarization process. A coaching culture is based in questions. It's curious, it's open-ended, and it focuses on the desired outcome. So in this case, mom and son, they really want to have a relationship. They want to have warm, wonderful holidays. They want to look forward to seeing family members. They don't want conversation to be stilted. They don't want to be concerned about what topics come up. And so that means that you have to say those things, articulate that that's the outcome you want. And if appropriate, then you just say these topics are off limits, right? And you get 3 strikes, right? Because sometimes people like to skate around the edge right before they fall through the ice. So is that a situation for you? And make it amusing. Strike 1, be lighthearted about it. Those are part of the principles of coaching as well. Once we identify that desired outcome, mom and son getting along again, warm, wonderful holidays, then we have to figure out the habits and behaviors that will achieve this. So what will support your strategy? And it might be weekly phone calls, discovering the list of no-nos, coming up with that catchphrase that says strike 1. Whatever it might be, those habits and behaviors that you can identify that will help you achieve this. And this, you don't get points for reinventing something here. By all means, ask other people, what's worked for you? What ground rules did you have? What did you do when somebody violated the rules? One of the things I do when people are late coming in from a break at workshops is they have to come to the front of the room and recite a poem, or they have to sing a little melody. So most people don't enjoy that, so they hustle to get back in on time. and people have fun with it. So what could you incorporate to make it light, to make it fun, to grow together? And if it's really, really important to you that you have one another understand your viewpoints about this issue, I encourage you to do what a colleague of mine did, where he sat down with this former student, now I suppose would fall into the peer category. They disagreed about an issue that was very important to the former student. They exchanged books with one another saying, please read this. And the other side said, please read this. And they would meet to discuss. They really wanted to learn. And so whatever you can do to help achieve that, by all means, play with it. It doesn't have to be perfect. As we know with the spaghetti marshmallow challenge, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go Google that on YouTube. We ask people to create these structures, the tallest structure possible with a marshmallow on top. And the people that perform the best in this are kindergartners. Why? Because they have no ego in it. They are ready to prototype, and they start building early and they figure out what works and what doesn't. And you know who performs the worst? CEOs. Right? Because they want to have everything perfect. And so they plan, and when time runs out, they still haven't, they're trying to put up the structure at the very last second. So it's a fascinating social experiment. But prototype early, have a dry run before Thanksgiving, have a dry run at the 4th of July holiday, whatever it might be. So for field work, is there anyone you wish to reunite with? Is it a family member, a close family member? Maybe it's a colleague that you did work with in the past, but before the pandemic, and then you lost touch during the pandemic, and you would like to reunite. What kind of outcome would you choose if you had a magic wand in order to make that happen? The second piece I really want to ask goes back to that Gay Hendricks question. What percentage of solving the relationship would you be willing to take on? And if you're like, if it was convenient, 25%, then I'd say, maybe not right now then. Wait till your willingness, your bandwidth is a little bit better. And then finally, what is one thing that you could ask of them that would improve your relationship going forward? And it might be to not post things they haven't personally researched. It could be anything. But what would be one thing that you could ask of them and have them do the same for you? Have them do the same for you. So that's all that we have for this week. We're going to continue to talk about the parallels between a coaching culture and this idea of preventing polarization. They come down to coaching skills for leaders. I really think so, with a few exceptions. If you have a team that you'd like to run this workshop with, or if you have a close personal relationship that you really want to reunite with and you want the help of a coach, please send a message. You can reach me at podcast@ShaunaCorden.com. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the buttons below. I'll see you next week. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Playbook for Performance. To learn more about Shauna Corden, her consulting programs and tools, please visit her website at ShaunaCorden.com and follow us on social media at Shauna Corden.